We're going to a quick break, and when we come back, we have more conversations. Or, rather than let's just head straight to our next story.
Absolutely.
Nigeria's total public debt, which stood at 24.34 trillion naira as of December 2018, represents about 24.1% of the country's GDP, indicating a relatively manageable debt to GDP ratio. However, it's worth noting that ratio has increased significantly since then, with the latest figures showing a government debt to GDP ratio of 52.8% as of June 2024. What this suggests is that Nigeria's debt burden has grown substantially over the past few years, potentially impacting the country's economic stability and growth prospects.
Now, on the 13th of June 2024, the World Bank approved financing operations in 2 tranches to the total sum of $2.25 billion for the benefit of Nigeria. This loan is aimed at supporting Nigeria's unstable economy with a focus on protecting millions of citizens who have faced growing poverty. And on Sunday, 29th of December 2024, Nigeria received the full $1.5 billion loan from the World Bank, made possible by the federal government's successful implementation of crucial reforms. If you recall, Nigeria has received several loans also from China, the IMF, the World Bank, African Development Bank, and so on. The big question really has been, have the huge sums been adequately utilized for the purpose which it was given? We'll be discussing the implications of this loan, including the potential benefits and challenges, as well as the government's plan for utilizing these funds. Joining us to provide valuable insights into the economic context and the expected outcomes is Kalu Aja, who's a financial analyst. Good morning. Great to see you. Happy New Year. And thanks for joining us.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You as well. Maybe before we even get into the loan conversation, I want your quick reactions to the Warri refinery, being said to be back in production now at 60%. What's the significance of this? And, just your quick thoughts before we get into talking about the loan.
Yeah, the law of economics says that if there's more supply, prices should fall. So we want to see prices fall. That's what Nigerians are concerned about. If there's more supply from Warri and Port Harcourt, then the PMS pump prices should come down in Nigeria, because that's the law of economics. If it doesn't come down, then we have to ask questions. So that's just a short reply. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Time will tell. Now, let's talk about the loan. The concerns a lot of times when we have these loan agreements with the World Bank or the African Development Bank or who else, is really mostly about how are we ever going to repay these loans, and also what are these funds being used for? We're talking about billions and billions of dollars over time. Is this one any different? Do you feel any different about this $1.5 billion now? Or are you still questioning what exactly is this money going to be used for? And how do we ever repay these funds?
Yeah, well, overall, we're always worried about the borrowings, right, in foreign currency, because we can't print that. We have to earn that to pay it back. But this particular loan is more like a stabilization, should we say a supporting loan. It's got very, very long moratoriums before you get charged an interest, and it's very, very long term. This 2.25 billion is actually 2 tranches. One is, you can say, is a more maybe commercial-sided loan that's going to use to support the budget, support the effort at stabilizing the currency, the tax reforms, the revenue side of the reforms that the present administration is doing. The other part, about $750 million, is going to go really towards that, the welfare program of the government, to say we're going to pay monies to households to sort of have a safety net as we reform the economy. As you know, we've removed subsidies, which means that there's now going to be higher costs. So the World Bank is saying, we're going to support you because we asked you, or we say we nudged you, or we gave you the advice to take up those subsidies. We're going to support you by giving to the poorest of the poor in Nigeria a safety net that would then allow them to at least survive. While the other part of the loan is just going to go towards budget support, capacity building. It's a structural adjustment program that's legal in Nigeria. Subsidies are gone. We're now faced with the market prices, and that's going to be a huge change. Would this get done over 5-10 years? We're doing it over 24 months. So lots of dislocations in the economy, lots of pain, and we hope that at the end we see the benefits. But that's what's going on right now.
All right, you've talked about the safety net. Now, these safety net, how confident are you in the ability to be able to meet the desired or the intended targets, those who are the financially and the economically insecure households? How confident are you that these will get to the necessary recipients?
I mean, we started off with the last administration with a $500 million loan from the World Bank again to do, safety nets. And this new administration said something. They did not rely on the registrar that the old administration had done. That tells you all you need to know. In the year 2024, 2025, when we have lots of, IT and all that AI, we should have a register secured by biometrics where people are not paid cash, but even paid through e-Naira or to their bank account, these funds, that it goes out to people and you can do an audit trail. If monies get to poor people, you would see the effect. If a poor person in my village is getting 25,000 a month, you will see the effect. So when we see the poverty rising, the extreme poverty rising, you have to question, is the money actually getting to these poor people? That's what the problem is. Nothing wrong with the loan. We must take care of the poor. But if this money is really getting to the grassroots, we will see the effect. So if we're not seeing the effect at the grassroots, at the very, very extreme poor, then we'll have to go back and look at the methodology, how we're sharing out funds. If it's in cash, I'm not in any way optimistic. It's got to be online, through their phones or whatever, that we can track an audit trail and see where it's going. We should see where it's being spent on. We should have to see where that money is being spent to and then do a report. What did they buy? How did they buy it? So that also aids decision making on the Nigerian side to say, okay, this is how we can support the Nigerian side apart from the World Bank loans. So for now, we're not using IT to our benefit for now. So I'm not yet there yet to say I support the implementation of that funds from the World Bank.
Okay, I mean, we don't have a very good history of being able to track these things, so I understand where those concerns are coming from. I'm sure many other Nigerians, when they see these stories, pretty much believe the same thing, that these funds are not likely to get to who they're intended, and nobody's going to account for most of it. But I also want to ask, one of the challenges people always point out when we get into these loan agreements with the IMF or with the World Bank or whoever else is that there are maybe other little details written in small print, concerning these loans that Nigerians may not be made aware of. Does this one have any of such that should worry you?
Not really. I mean, if you go online, you can read the World Bank loan. You can read about this loan from the World Bank itself, even from the IMF and all that, right? These are development loans. If it's an IMF loan, it's a bit more stringent in terms of what they require from you. But again, remember, Nigeria is doing a structural adjustment program. We won't say it that way. But we're taking away subsidies. We're increasing taxes. We are saying we're going to use the market pricing on all transactions. So costs are going to go up. These loans basically are going to come to fill in the cracks, to fill in those spaces for now. The idea is growth. We want to promote growth, and growth should pay back these loans. So whatever the small print is in the loans, if you grow the economy, you can pay it back. Remember in 2005, we paid back a lot of these loans because the economy was growing. We were exporting crude oil about 2 million barrels a day. We got the funds to pay back. The problem today really is that we're not making a lot of revenues, right? And again, we have this huge inflation that is just hanging on our necks right now. So even though the government generates £1 billion, inflation takes away about 200 million from that. And that's the problem we have. So it's not the fine print per se. It's on our own ability locally to grow the economy, to then create those fiscal revenues that we can use to service this debt and to then see the effects locally, yeah.
All right, and do you think that the World Bank has faith in Nigeria's ability to, work with the current loan structure? We've seen that, I think it's in 2 tranches with different maturity periods. So does this loan structure, first of all, say anything about Nigeria's financial stability, and does it say anything about the World Bank confidence in Nigeria's ability to repay these loans?
Honestly, I've questioned where we get so many loans. I think the World Bank is very, very confident in Nigeria. Not just this admin, but they've been giving Nigeria a lot of loans. I question sometimes, all these loans they are giving, how are we going to pay it back, But again, it's 2 loans. So one is more commercial, in quotes. The other is really for the safety net. That's why they've sort of broken it down, It's like it's a reset loan and a DSF loan, something like that. The other one is safety net. We're getting these monies, we're going to give it to poor people. Right, and it's a long moratorium, and then so the idea is if you take these poor people out of poverty and they don't contribute to the economy, you can tax them and you can repay these loans. That's essentially what it's all planned out to be. The economy has got to grow. People have got to be employed. That employment creates economic growth. which generates fiscal revenues, which services loans. In the long term, that's the plan. So we have to ask ourselves locally, it's not the World Bank's fault. We have to ask ourselves, what are we doing with the money? Are we creating growth? Are we creating the indices for growth? That's the question. What are we doing with the funds? If we take $1, that's almost 1,600, right? What are we doing to then invest our money locally to grow the economy tomorrow? That's really for us to answer.
All right, so we need to go on a very short break. When we come back, I want you to speak a little bit more about the, claims of misappropriation of funds. If you remember, not long ago, there was the alleged mismanagement of 350 billion naira ANRIN fund that, of course, also came from the World Bank in 2018. So, would like that you also speak a little bit more about that. And, of course, the Fitch ratings that have also put some significant worries with regards to Nigeria's repeated seeking of loans. But we'll talk about these things when we come back from this break. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Of course, we're looking at the conversation of where Nigeria is regarding the loan given to Nigeria by the World Bank, and we're joined by a financial analyst, Kalu Aja. Thank you once again for joining us. All
right. Now, before we went, on that break, I had mentioned, once again that I think you needed to speak a little bit more about the worries of misappropriation. In December, I think, just, a couple of days ago, actually, in 2024, there was the report about the reps probing the alleged mismanagement of 350 billion naira ANRIN fund, which was given to Nigeria in 2018, also by the World Bank. Speak a little bit more about those concerns that you also have.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't like to speak about the specific incident, but overall, Nigeria has got a big problem when we get funds for development and we don't use them. Let me give you a bigger instance. You have the dam in Taraba that the Chinese did the counterpart funding, and then we have a report where the former minister, is now being probed by the EFCC for taking the counterpart funding and more or less, spending it. So it's not just a particular case you've mentioned, but you can go back, the health case, the AIDS money that we got in Nigeria from the USAID, lots of funds that we get into the country. Nigerians don't have a lot of confidence that when funds come into the country, they are utilized for what they are supposed to be used for. And it's not just this particular case. And that's why when you see Nigerians here, World Bank, IMF, they get worried. When the IMF gives you a loan, it's supposed to be to say that they have come to your country and they are satisfied with the macroeconomic stability of that country to even get a loan. You see Argentina struggling to get a loan from the IMF. Other countries struggling to get a loan from the IMF, Pakistan. But Nigeria seems to be able to get these loans easier than those countries. It could be that we have sort of a macroeconomic base better than them. The World Bank has complained the data from the federal government is inaccurate. This is the World Bank complaining that the data they get from Nigeria is inaccurate. So it's not just the corruption or taking of monies, but the actual numbers that we then put out and say this is real. They're also worried about that. And that's the problem. So when there's no confidence, even when you want to do the right thing, you then get into roadblocks, like the tax reform bill. So I hear you, you can pick on all these issues, and that's what's going on here. That's why we're on this program today. We don't trust the ability to invest those funds, and we think it's going to be a debt trap down the road. So I hear you, it's a problem, and we can't run away from it.
Okay, we'll come back. I mean, you've mentioned tax reforms, and at some point, if we have enough time, I'd like us to talk about the Reset and the AMO program. But let's talk about the Fitch ratings. They've warned that Nigeria's economic stability will be affected if we're not able to work on our fiscal deficit reduction target. So we'd like to get your thoughts on that and, how possible these predictions are and how maybe they can be avoided.
Yeah, in simple terms, Fitch is telling Nigeria that, listen, you borrowed a lot, you've had 2 record deficit budgets, and they're saying the revenues that you are projecting to bring into the country, if you don't bring those revenues into the country, there's going to be a lot of trouble, right? Our revenues are based on crude oil. So if crude oil stays at 70 and we can pump out more oil, we can pay our debts. If oil goes to 60, or we cannot pump out the 1.8 to 2 million, we're in big trouble. That's what Fitch is saying. Because we haven't grown the economy beyond crude oil. The non-crude oil part of the economy is really not generating forex, and forex is what funds the Nigerian economy. So the only hope I see is Dangote Refinery. It's not just because of the PMS imports, but the exports of the byproducts of crude oil that's going to give us a second line of forex coming in. But it's still crude oil. And that's what Fitch is saying. If we don't stop borrowing, or we do not stop, borrowing in foreign currency that we cannot service that debt, then we're going to be in trouble. If oil prices fall, say to 50, 60, we're in deep trouble.
Quickly, what are your predictions?
For oil prices, it's going to come down. But come down to what? I don't know. It's going to come down from 70 to about 60. Russia is going to be back in the market because they're going to be peace with Ukraine. So Iran might be off the hook. So there's going to be more supply. And then if prices come down, can we even pump more? That's the question. You can see Russia and India sign an agreement. EU is going to buy more US gas because of the Trump tariffs. So we have to really get forward thinking. We're going to have to discount our oil to get buyers for our oil. So big problems ahead.
All right. I guess we'll continue to observe how things turn out, and we certainly would hope for the best, because when things work out for the country, it works out for all of us as Nigerians. Thank you so much, Kalu Aja, for indulging us this morning, and we look forward to having you come on the show more often in 2025. We wish you a wonderful year.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. Have a good one, guys.
You as well. All right.